This war that Israel is going through is very biblical. And I want to take a moment and talk about why this is actually happening, because it goes way beyond our comprehension of really why, when we look at on the ground what is taking place there and you see in the news why. It's way beyond that. This is meant to be. It is purposeful. It is necessary to some degree. And so I want to take a moment and say, well, who's behind it and why exactly is this taking place? Well, let's say again, it's been predetermined, but it is very, very satanic and driven by Satan. So we're going to jump to Revelation 12 to kind of look at what is taking place here. So we're going to go to 12:13. Now, when the dragon, that's Satan, saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman, that is Israel, who gave birth to the male child, which is Jesus. So ultimately what's taking place here is Satan and a third of the angels were cast to the earth. And they then ruled the earth. He is the prince of the earth. Yet here's this nation that rose up and was the lineage of the child, Jesus Christ, which would redeem mankind and ultimately cancel out his throne, because there will be a day, and we're getting closer to it, that Jesus will literally rule on earth on a throne. And Satan, of course, is trying to do that himself. He's trying to take that away and insert himself onto that throne. And it is through the nation of Israel that this is taking place. Just like here, what we see in Revelation 12, he is fighting against the birth of this child, but now that the child is born, now he's fighting for the second coming. Now he's fighting for the actual throne where he can literally sit and rule the earth. Now we're going to kind of go to 1 Chronicles for a little bit, because ultimately it's always been the case when David was fighting against the Philistines and the giants. It was that's why those are very satanic things, trying to prevent Israel from achieving what it is God has determined it to achieve. And we're going to go to Job first, because I want to show you how he does this, like how he is responsible for the attack from Hamas on Israel specifically. So I'm going to go to Job. What's taking place here is Satan is having a conversation with God about Job, and talking about how righteous he is. And Satan says, well, but you put a hedge of protection around him, you bless him, take that stuff away, he's going to curse you. And he says this, and stay with me, because we're going to get back to how Satan does this, is the purpose of this. So the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your power, only do not lay hands on his person. Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servant with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So ultimately what Satan has done is he had convinced a group of people to attack the things of God violently and kill everything. But for some reason they left the one, because it's all about destroying the spirit of Job. So Satan somehow drove a nation of people to come, or a tribe of people to come and destroy or kill all these people, but specifically leave one. That's a lot of leadership from the spirituality of principalities. That's some specific directions. And let's keep going. We'll jump to 17. And while he was still speaking, another also came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels and took them away, yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. And here he does it twice. He convinces 2 groups of people to invade and kill, murder, steal, and kill, and yet somehow make sure you leave one alive on both those scenarios. So keep in mind, the people, they're just puppets. They're just simply puppets. They're just doing exactly what the spiritual principalities are telling them to do, and they're not really sure why. They're just somehow convinced to do it. Well, how does he convince people to do it? So let's go to 1 Chronicles. This is very important, because here what we're going to do is we're going to look at 1 Chronicles 21. And what's taking place here is the last of the giants of the Philistines have been killed. Ultimately what you have is the Philistines were very satanic. They were there specifically at the orders of Satan to destroy, cause chaos, warfare, never any peace in Israel for sure. And they did it with giants, which, again, are also satanic. Fallen angels slept with women and gave birth to a race of giants. So once all the giants, at least in the Philistine camp, is dead, we see this in 21. Let's go back to that. 28. These were born to the giants of Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. 21:1. Now Satan stood up against Israel and moved David to number Israel. So David said to Joab, to the leader of the people, "Go number Israel from Beersheba to Dan and bring the number to them to me, that I may know it." So here's what he's doing is he's essentially saying, he's convincing King David, like when the actual sword isn't working, because the Philistines and the giants are trying to just wipe Israel off the face of the earth from their existence pretty much now. And when he realizes that the literal sword is not working, then he brings the sword of God on him by convincing him to do this evil deed. And ultimately, that is what happens, is God then punishes David for doing this thing, and it costs the lives of 70,000 Israelites. So he's literally convincing people to do these things. And we have to open our eyes, because we battle not against flesh, but against principalities. And when you look at what Israel is going through, you have to know that it is satanically driven specifically. Even if we go back to Job, after he goes through all he goes through and his three friends show up, there's a particular thing that one of his friends says to him, because, he's coming to Job to kind of, really bring him, tear him down even further, because that is the mission in this particular story of Satan. But he says this, Job 4:12. "Now a word was secretly brought to me, and my ear received a whisper of it, in disquieting thoughts from the vision of the night. When deep sleep falls on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones shake. Then a spirit passed before me. The hair on my body stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice saying." And here you have this evil satanic spirit showing up, saying, "Hey, look, here's what you need to do." We have to believe and understand that this is what's taking place. It's been taking place since the moment that Israel became a nation. This has been happening. I'm not talking about 1948. I'm talking way back from Abraham on. This has always been the case. It's always been the plan of God to redeem mankind, which Satan caused to fall in the first place, because he's the prince of the earth. He wants the earth his way. And since then, this redemption of mankind has just been going on, and he's been trying to stop the redemption of mankind and stop it. And he did it through David, through the Philistines. And now he's trying to continue to stop it, because he knows his time is running out. And if we go back to that story where the dragon that fell, Revelation 12:1, "Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. And a lot of that, with biblical reference, we know that is Israel. "Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth." And this is that whole experience of them leading to the lineage of Jesus Christ. "And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon," that's Satan, seven heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. "His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven." There's a third of the angels, "and threw them to the earth." And those are the demons we're dealing with. "And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born." This is just how it's been, and it always will be. He's trying to stop the second coming of Jesus Christ. He's trying to establish his own literal throne through the Antichrist in Jerusalem, in the temple where Jesus will literally rule. That's why he's the Antichrist. It's the purpose. It's his whole entire purpose is to rule on earth. and be like him, be like God. So there you go. Don't think that this is a bunch of political stuff. They're being manipulated by principalities of wickedness, which is why that foolish, just ridiculous invasion started in the first place. All satanically driven. Any thoughts or insight, definitely put that below. Would like to take a moment to say most people watch this channel, they're not subscribers to the channel. Click that subscribe button. It greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. Never hesitate to send that stuff in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.